With Brexit looming, is there a concerted effort to get Japanese investments into the EU? How much urgency is there?
Well, thank you for having me here. Let me say that 2019 has been a very good year in terms of EU-Japan relations, with the Economic Partnership Agreement coming into force. And of course, that means that we want to shore up our economies through ensuring that we can benefit from trade between the EU and Japan. Let me make one comment regarding the Brexit issue. Yes?
Go ahead.
Yes, of course, there has been traditionally also a lot of investment from Japan in the EU, including in the UK, and that means that from the EU perspective, the key is to ensure an orderly Brexit, to get to certainty for businesses, so that both the EU, the UK, and all our foreign partners, including Japan, can then continue to do business with each other.
But how critical is Japan as a partner in an increasingly bifurcated world?
From my point of view, Japan is really essential. If you put EU and Japan together, we are close to 30% of the global GDP. And that means that if we manage to do well in our trade and economic relations, to increase investment and services, and also to do that in a rules-based way, then of course we can weather the international storms better. We can do better in this very turbulent current environment. And of course it would also help to stabilize then a large portion of global trade.
And Ambassador Flor, I mean, we talk about how critical Japan is for the UK economy. 1,000 Japanese companies, somewhere around that ballpark here, that do operate in the UK. What are the conversations that you're having with Japanese businesses right now? What are still the key concerns when it comes to Brexit?
The key concern from the start has been what will be the future of the relations between the UK and the European Union. And on that point, from the EU perspective, it's very clear. First, we want the withdrawal agreement to be agreed, because it would give us certainty in the interim period. But then, of course, we also want a very close economic relationship in the future. And that close relationship would also ensure for Japanese businesses that they will know exactly what the terms of their point of entry from the UK into the EU are. And that is critical for them. Many of them have asked me, I mean, how should we deal with Brexit? And many of them have actually made decisions about, for instance, also relocating. And therefore, I think it's clear that for all of the partners concerned, including Japan, to ensure an orderly Brexit and a very close relationship in the future will be key.
So you've already seen people, or at least some companies, are moving out of the UK to the EU. Have you seen a lot of movement on that front already?
Well, of course, you have to talk to the individual companies, but what I can tell you is that, yes, I know that some banks and some other companies have made sure that they have an office and a regional headquarter which is within the EU 27. Yes.
Ambassador Flor, President Trump is mulling imposing tariffs, auto tariffs on both the EU and Japan. Are the two sides collaborating to counter Trump's efforts?
Well, first of all, let me say that the EU always has insisted on doing trade and agreements within the rules given by the World Trade Organization. And that, of course, means that we've always said that is a part and parcel of our trade deals, like of the Economic Partnership Agreement with Japan. And therefore, of course, it's also clear that we do not want to see more damage to the global economy being done by increasing tariffs. The EPA between Japan and EU has brought all tariffs down on 95% of our trade immediately, with entry into force on the 1st of February 2019. And we are looking at 99% of all of the tariffs being gone at the end of the next 15 years. And from our point of view, this is the way to go forward, a fair, level playing field based on WTO rules.
There is a general retreat from globalization in the auto sector. Japanese manufacturers, for instance, are pulling out of the factories in the EU. How worried are you about this?
First of all, let me say that we have today global value chains and global supply chains. And that is why to break down the global economy into only bilateral issues or bilateral agreements is of course not the way to go. But let me also emphasize here that Japan, the EU and also the US, we have a strong trilateral cooperation in order to address WTO reform. Because of course we need a global rule book, meaning based on the WTO, which would then allow all of us to benefit from good economic relations, including of course in the industrial area, meaning also cars and other industrial products.